the Vauxhall Corsa. It's such a popular car in the UK that everyone from learner drivers to octogenarians still with a licence drive around in them daily. And part of the Corsa's appeal has always been that it's cheap to buy and run, relatively economical, easy to drive, and it offers good practicality. Well, the same is true today because you can buy a petrol-powered version of the British brand Supermini. But in 2020, there is another way, and that's with this, the all-new, all-electric Vauxhall Corsa-e.
Superminis like the Corsa are perfect for electrification. They often spend their lives doing shorter journeys in and around town where air quality is already not the cleanest. Due to their lower price, they're not always the most refined either, but an EV with very little powertrain noise helps boost this area. However, price is an important point as well, because cramming all of that tech, including a 50 kilowatt-hour battery here, an electric motor and all of the associated kit for charging and battery management is expensive. So, with a £3,000 government plug-in car grant, the Corsa-e starts from £27,665. But just remember, buy on finance or lease one and the monthly cost will likely be more affordable.
So, what's the Vauxhall Corsa-e like to drive? Well, it's really simple actually. The electric motor makes 134 brake horsepower, but more importantly, 260 Newton meters of torque. And unlike a petrol engine, which produces its maximum torque at a certain RPM, the electric motor's shove is available instantly, so acceleration is strong and solid. Vauxhall claims the 0 to 62 time is 8.1 seconds, but it's actually the 0 to 30 miles per hour time of 2.8 seconds that's more impressive. And it shows just how good the performance of this car is going to be around town. However, as with any EV, range is probably going to be more important. And with a claimed 209 miles from a full charge, it's really respectable. On a mixed test route of 75 miles or so today, we've been seeing about 4 miles per kilowatt hour. So you should get somewhere around 200 miles real world range. However, compared with a standard petrol Corsa, the battery adds 345 kilograms on top of the car's curb weight. So at 1,530 kilos, this Supermini isn't exactly light. But thankfully, all of that weight is pretty low in the chassis where the battery's mounted. So the centre of gravity is low too, and that does help the handling. It's not the most agile car, but the steering is pointy and there's a fair amount of grip. It's also light, so in town manoeuvring, parking in tight spots should be quite easy. The ride, well, it's a little bit bobbly on back roads, but at higher speed and on smoother A roads and motorways, it does settle down a bit. It's quite good around town as well, because the sharper bumps you often get in urban environments and city centres force the suspension to go further through its stroke, and it actually rounds off bumps and harsh edges nicer than it would do on a country road like this, for example. So, allied with the refinement of the powertrain, the Corsa-e is quite a civilised little car. There are different driving modes, so you've got Sport, Normal and Eco. You can pretty much forget the first one because it'll impact range more, even though the throttle response is good. Normal is as you would expect, and Eco dulls the throttle off slightly, so you do have to press the accelerator that little bit further to get that hit of performance. There's two different modes for the brake regeneration as well. So in D, you kind of coast along nicely when you lift off, but in B, the regen is ramped up that little bit more. So while you can't fully do one pedal driving, with a little bit of anticipation, you can actually drive around in most situations without really touching the brakes. Now, we've already mentioned range, and the Corsa's 209-mile official claim puts it just behind rivals like the Renault Zoe, but on par with the Peugeot E208, and well, it should really, given the cars share the same tech. Charging is just as important, and the Corsa supports 100 kilowatt charging capability. So using this feed, an 80% top-up will take 30 minutes. Use a more common 50 kilowatt hour supply, and that goes up to 45 minutes, but it's still not an awfully long time to wait. So although we're not living under normal conditions at the moment, as more shops and leisure centres start to reopen, or even if your supermarket has got a rapid charger, as long as you plug in, you go and do what you need to do, you should gain a useful boost. And charging is very simple.
Now, there are two options when it comes to AC charging, which is the kind of charging that you'll be using at home. The Corsa-e comes with either a 7.4 kilowatt or an 11 kilowatt onboard charger. Using a public AC charging post, the 11 kilowatt version cuts around an hour and 40 minutes for an 80% recharge, down to 3 hours 20 minutes in total. But most owners' home charging points will only supply around 7 kilowatts anyway, so both versions take the same 7 hours and 30 minutes for a full recharge. We'd save ourselves the extra £850 from this already £30,000 plus Elite Nav model and go for the 7.4 kilowatt version instead.
At least this top spec trim level gets lots of kit. There's climate control, heated seats, matrix LED lights and some good safety tech for around town, as well as this 10-inch touchscreen infotainment unit with the usual Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. It works quite well. We'd like the responses to be a little snappier, but on the whole the tech is good, so it justifies the price tag. However, some of the plastics in here feel a little cheap, especially the materials lower down in the cabin and the black plastic panel around the digital dashboard.
While quality is an issue, the cabin's also not as interesting as its E208 rival from Peugeot. Space in the rear is a little limited, but there's enough room for adults on most journeys. The boot is smaller than a standard Corsa's 2 at 267 litres. That's because you lose the underfloor storage area, which seems counterproductive in an EV like this where you need somewhere to store the charging cables. So it's a little bit more limited on space, but then this is a small car with a big battery that offers genuinely usable range. So there's still just enough in the way of practicality and still more boot space than in, say, a Mini Electric. The partnership between Vauxhall Opel and Peugeot Citroën has meant that Vauxhall has the ability to now go fully electric, and the Corsa-e is a good debut from the British brand. There are some practicality drawbacks, but they're not just limited to this EV, as some electric supermini rivals suffer here too. The Corsa-e performs well enough and drives tidily, but it's the charging flexibility and range from that relatively big battery that gives this small car its real appeal. If you like this video, then don't forget to give us a thumbs up below and click on our logo to subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to hit the bell icon either to receive a notification every time we release a new video.